Welcome back to Daytona. We've got Daytona covered. An ESPN Classic is joining in beginning February 8th at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. A week of fantastic moments from the Daytona 500. Earnhardt, Yarborough, Allison. You can bet you'll see Richard Petty's 200th win with President Reagan sitting in the grandstands right here at Daytona. The 500 is the subject of Daytona Week on ESPN Classic Sports beginning February 8th. For more, log on to ESPN.com, part of Go Network, go.com. Back at Daytona, race leader Andy Wallace. Just about up to full speed now. Lots of fuel, good tires, but to the best of our knowledge, no working radio. So he won't be updated by the team with regard to what his rival is doing. That's the second place 7 car. Meanwhile, let's check into the 07, third place in the GT3 category, running on the same lap as the second place car in class. There is the race leader going around that 07. The Jennifer Fund car. That car is decorated with the handprints of some 30 young patients from the University of Virginia Children's Medical Center. And on the back of the car, one of the little kids that wanted to be a part of the effort had both arms in a cast, so they used her footprint. And it's on the back of the car. A great effort by this crew.
Which we almost had an opportunity to see there, by the way.
Right. Passing as the car rotated around the axis. Patrick Heisman, Darren Law, Danny and Steve Marshall, and Sylvain Tremblay teaming up to take that car to a podium position here at the Rolex 24. And the skies to the east are darkening up once again. We may not be out of the rain yet.
Well, we've been watching Andy Wallace, and so far he's not gone as quick or anywhere near as quick as the FR was going. Still, those tires coming up to temperature. Now, here is Alan McNish, who is clearly got those intermediates up to speed, and look at the difference in lap time, more than 11 seconds on that last lap.
Running at 2:01 that last lap in conditions. That's pretty stout.
Yeah, that is pretty stout, and we will continue to keep an eye on him. Now, I just saw Andy Wallace's last lap time. He's coming down lap time wise, but still, I wonder why they take those rain tires off, because the wear shouldn't be an issue on one tank of fuel in terms of wet weather tires like that. And I actually wonder why they take them off, because it takes so much time to get them up to temperature.
And I also wonder, as we approach the 2 hours to go mark in this race, whether perhaps Andy Wallace's plan going in wasn't to just drive it at 95% instead of 100%. I wonder, can they save themselves a pit stop by short shifting, lifting on the gas a little bit, making their opponents stop one more time than they do in the hours remaining?
Well, as they said, you know, we're going to kind of tee off what the Ferrari guys do, and chances are, if they get this lap back, which it looks like McNish will do, because he's only on the road, I think he's only about 30 seconds or less behind Andy Wallace, although that didn't help. If he gets that lap back, then they're only 1 lap down. So then the Dyson guys need to start, you know, being a little bit more careful, maybe pushing the car a little bit harder. But as EFR said, you know, they're having pedal problems. I mean, Butch Leitzinger talked about that hours ago. They've got some debris down in the pedal box on that car, and it's sticking the throttle a little bit. And that, you know, especially in the wet, that is really the last thing you need.
See the running order in the field in the upper left as the seconds continue to tick away. For this team, time has become the enemy. For the Dyson team, time is rapidly becoming their friend. Still squirming under acceleration, even high up there where the track is likely to be driest on the 31-degree banking here at Daytona. To our race leader, Andy Wallace from England.
And his speeds are coming up. He is going quicker and quicker every lap, and mostly that is him just settling into driving the car in the wet, finding the grip, finding out where it's slick, getting the tires up to temperature, and that does take, you know, 4, 5, or 6 laps.
We talked in yesterday's show at the beginning of the race about how a couple of years ago Rob Dyson said they had developed this normally aspirated Ford firepower and the car about as far as they could, and yet they keep coming back with it. They won the race in '97. and they get faster every year.
Well, let's not forget the inlet restrictors that are new this year. And we talked about it. We haven't really talked about it in today's show. We talked about it yesterday. You know, all the classes run inlet restrictors with the exception of GTT. Everyone runs an inlet restrictor, but they're new to the Can-Am cars for 1999. And really, it's designed to you know, create more quality in the class. It has really hurt these Ferraris more than it has hurt the Ford power cars. There you can see those lap times. Still McNish quite a bit quicker than Wallace, but Wallace is going quicker all the time. Really hurt the Ferraris more than the Fords because the Ferraris are higher revving motors. You know, so where before the Ford might have been at a 50 or 60 horsepower disadvantage, they might now only be, you know, 10 or 15 horsepower disadvantage.
And the tire technology continues to improve as well. Into the chicane one more time was Alan McNish, and there's the team he's trying to catch. Feeling pretty good about themselves right now. Dyson Racing knows this race is long from over.
Coming up on the conclusion of the 22nd hour here at the Rolex 24 at the Daytona International Speedway, and the 20 Dyson Ford continues to lead, and they continue to run on rain tires. And we had speculated as to why they changed tires on their last pit stop. Well, Max Crawford told me that they changed because that was really the first time they'd run a full fuel stop on rain tires, and they wanted to find out how they were wearing. They're wearing excellent, and they will go back on the car one of the later stops here in the closing hours of the race. Further down pit road is Marty Reed.
Yes, in the 7 car, they've got the guy they want at the wheel. Alan McNish has proven that this is going to be either his race to make a name for himself, or they're just going to fall a little bit short. They are closing the gap. They do like the setup they've got. They hope it continues the way it is because they're narrowing that margin. As far as GT2 is concerned, well, the 83 car, Andre Arley and his team, Hubert Hoff, they are not missing a beat. They have just been lap after lap after lap, extremely consistent. Meanwhile, the Corvette continues to struggle, having to stop for a long stretch there, and giving up the lead after holding it for 12 hours. Now finds it about 7 laps down, guys.
Still 2 laps down, but let's check the speeds once again. Still 5 miles an hour faster that last lap than Andy Wallace. Is Alan McNish. Man, he's working the traffic pretty aggressively there.
Absolutely.
In the infield.
He's only about 22 seconds behind Wallace on the road right now. So he's been making up time hand over fist here. Now he is 2 laps down, so he can easily get a lap back and probably at this pace can take the lead. So the Dyson guys, everything else being equal, they're going to have to pick up their pace if they're going to want to win this race.
You can be sure that they want to win this race. So it's going to be an interesting cut and thrust over the last couple of hours as we approach 11 a.m. Eastern Time.
Catching number 20 by about 4 seconds a lap now. To unlap yourself one more time, okay?
And Bob, you've talked about, you know, as a driver.
Last lap you were 24 seconds behind. That means it would take 6 laps.
As a driver, that's exactly what you want to hear on the radio. You know, there's the odd crew chief that isn't that calm, believe it or not. And that is exactly what you want to hear on the radio.
Just as calm as he can be, like a suicide hotline. You're catching the leader at 4 seconds a lap. John McLaughlin, last year's Technician of the Year in sports car racing, was a key man in bringing Alan McNish onto this effort. GT cars coming off turn 4 into the tri-oval. Now we're hearing reports of oil down on the track. Oil being put down by the number 2 car, that Chevy Corvette, currently shown 10th overall, 2nd in GT2. We'll follow that as we watch the GT3 class leader, number 23 Porsche for Team Seattle, Alex Job Racing. What a weekend they've had. The car put on pole by Kelly Collins. Or excuse me, Kurt Wagner, I guess, put the car on the pole.
Yeah, it's funny. Kelly actually does normally qualify this car. And, you know, I believe Court just said, you know what, I want to qualify. So they let Court qualify, and he did a great job. He put it on the pole, so you can't ask for anything more than that. And really, I think they surprised the factory BMW team, because the factory BMW team was third and fourth after qualifying.
Now, as we watch the race leader go around, keep in mind, no radio communication and not much vision either. Meanwhile, the 83 is in. This is our 7th place car in the overall, class leader in GT2. Let's get a report.
Andre Arle behind the wheel. The German will remain there. And again, this is, boy, the car looks very good considering we are 2 hours till the finish. And this team has run a very clean race, had very few major problems to speak of. In fact, nothing major. Everything's been on the minor side, and they've just run a very steady, consistent pace. And they are going to go back with an intermediate type of compound now. They had full reins on. They're having trouble. They got the fuel in, but the problem was the car was pushed down by the weight of the gas refueler on the front nose, so they couldn't get the fronts. So now they're finally getting put on. But again, they're in a position where they know what's happening with the Corvette, and they want to make sure that they do everything right on this stop. They don't want to give up this win. It's so close in their grasp right now.
Lights back on. Mechanics done. Through the checklist. Off we go.
Well, when you have a 7-lap lead, they do have one problem. It looks like the back window, which would be a plexiglass or a plastic-based product, is blown out on that car. We don't know how that happened. That must have happened sometime during the evening, but they've got a 7-lap lead, so they can afford to take their time a little bit. Marty, you can add a little bit?
Yeah, guys, I mean, he's not complained about it. In fact, if anything, it may have helped get some more circulation into the car, and they're not having as much of a fogging problem.
Did they tell you how that problem happened? What happened to blow that back window out?
Hey, I got to be honest with you, Rook Racing has very few guys who can speak a lot of English, and our communication gap is, shall I say, evident.
Well, in talking with David Donahue earlier, he said those guys from Rook Racing, we race against them in the FIA series in Europe, and they are very, very good. So David's bet was on them to hold on in the GT2 category if they can. But there's a lot of racing still to run. Coming up on 2 hours to go. Stay with us. At Daytona International Speedway, the magic hour 23 beginning. 2 hours remain in this twice around the clock marathon. The race leader is Ford over Ferrari. Andy Wallace, without a radio so his crew could help him along, continues to pound out the laps. And although he turned a couple of laps at the same speed as the man pursuing him, Alan McNish in the Ferrari, McNish picked up a little ground on that last lap, about 2 miles an hour quicker, but he needs more than that.
Well, a lot can happen.
No one knows that better than Dyson Racing. They have seen this race slip from their grasp before, when they finally picked up the victory in 1997 in one of the great races in Rolex 24 history.
And of course, both these guys, Andy Wallace and Alan McNish, 24-hour of Le Mans winners, so incredibly experienced in this type of racing. Alan fairly new to the Ferrari, but he's one of those guys that he's he's a professional driver. Whatever you put him in, he's going to drive, and he's going to drive the wheels off it, and he's doing that right now.
McNish, big part of the Porsche factory operation, became available when Porsche withdrew from overall contention in sports car racing this year. Rumor has it they're working on something very special for the 2000 season. But they are here with parts and engineering support for the fleet of privateer Porsches that right now lead the GT classes, GT1 and GT2.
You know, the neat thing about the infield here at Daytona is that it kind of doubles back on itself. So you actually have a great opportunity to visually, get a bead on Alan a little hot into the hairpin there, a little wide of the apex. He's 11 seconds behind him right now, and he actually has an opportunity in a couple of different places to look over and see where the Dyson car is to see where Andy Wallace is, and visually he can keep track of that. So we haven't heard a lot of radio communication because he doesn't really need it. He knows he's catching him.
Both up on the same banking. Still 2 laps apart, but boy, what a morale boost it would be for the Ferrari team if McNish can get one of those 2 laps back soon. 2 hours to go and much can happen. I remember years ago at the Grand Prix of Monaco, the Formula One race, Ayrton Senna said he was looking at the big screen TV that was mounted on the harbor side as he was going up the hill towards the casino just to see where the opposition was behind him. Going up the hill at 130 miles an hour, watching television. Here comes the 7 off the corner. You get a visual idea of the interval. Now they're on the same straightaway. We'll check their times at the line. Pretty safe bet that McNish faster once again. They actually have to get down into turn 1 where the timing line is. Yep, closing up is Alan McNish. 4 miles an hour quicker on that last lap. 4 miles an hour difference, and almost 4 seconds on the racetrack. And it's that time that is important, because that's the best indicator of how far apart they are. So this is really getting interesting. Will we have leaders on the same lap at the end of the race? We have 2 hours to find out, and we'll be back live to Daytona. ESPN Speed World coverage of the Rolex 24 at Daytona is being brought to you by Just for Men, the leader in men's hair coloring. Blends away gray in 5 minutes. We have had a race for 20-odd hours, and we continue to have one. It is closing up. Race leader Andy Wallace has 2 laps in hand, but he is being eaten up steadily but surely by the second-place Ferrari of Alan McNish. Whoa! 36 car ahead, desperately trying to stay from being lapped by the race leader.
And that's the thing. The 36 car has really been holding Andy Wallace back. You can see now, there's McNish. So no cars between them on the racetrack at this moment. And look at that, 6 seconds on that lap, roughly 6 seconds on that last lap. McNish completely, he's got the hammer down. I mean, he's been consistently in the 104 mile an hour range.
When there's traffic ahead, the track is drying.
Despite what you see on the camera lens there, yes, the track is drying, although very wet offline. But very hard for Andy to get by this Ferrari, because the Ferrari has the straightaway speed advantage. And there is Alan McNish rolling up behind these 2. Look at how wet it is offline there in the chicane.
What dirt tracking that car through the chicane, Alan McNish. An incredible driving job from all 3 of these cars, running virtually nose to tail in these half-wet, half-dry conditions. Keep in mind, they're not on slick tires.
You know, and Andy actually might be getting to the point where those full reins are hurting him.
That's what I was thinking.
This might be the point where the intermediates are really going to start to pay off. Let's go down to Bill Weber.
With Max Crawford, who's been watching on television, and now he's going to try and communicate to his driver. Remember, they don't believe that Andy can hear him, but perhaps there has been some communication, because this is the first time in the last 20 minutes or so he's reached for his radio. But they've been watching McNish coming, and they've had no real way to tell.
Andy, we copy what you say. We copy what you say. Talk to us.
So the radio is working once again.
Yeah, it sounds like it is, Bob. Perhaps intermittent at best, and that's what Elliott said, it was working intermittently before it totally failed.
Max may be talking to the signaling area, too, telling them what to transmit to Andy on the board. Look at the traffic. Oh, once again, Wallace balked by a GT car, and McNish is right there now.
Well, watch out here, Alan. You want to make sure that Porsche sees you coming through. A real variety of lines coming out of turn 5 there up onto the banking. But now look at the 36 car. Looks like it's pulled over to let McNish go by, unless he missed a gear or something. Excuse me, to let Wallace go by. There goes McNish. Watch, this is going to be the pass.
Man, that was close.
And look at this lap car. Now, very wet where McNish is. He won't be able to brake as late as Andy Wallace, so he can't finish up that pass. But you know that Andy Wallace knows that Alan McNish is right there.
Meanwhile, the 36 car goes another lap down. Once again onto the banking. Let's see how McNish plays it this time. Too far back to get it towed there, Jeremy?
Well, I think he's got a good run. I mean, that Ferrari's a lot quicker, and here he comes. He'll go up. He'll go up top. And that's it. That is Ferrari horsepower. Now Andy can close this gap back up, but as I said, I think the full wets are starting to hurt Andy Wallace in that car, because you can see a distinct dry line developing around the racetrack.
Now just one lap apart, albeit one lap plus virtually the entire length of the second lap. Let's see if McNish can pull away in traffic.
Now this is where Alan McNish and company want a full course caution. That's what they need, because they would make up all that distance.
Right.
They could do it the easy way instead of doing it the hard way, the way he's been doing it for the last 20 minutes. But look at that gap already opening up. Now it looks like McNish has decided he wants to actually stay away from that apex. That maybe that apex is a little slicker.
Headlights flashing on the 83 car. Once again, that is the GT2 class leader. And Porsche, that silver Porsche, the 83 car just ahead of Alan McNish.
Now the thing with Andy Wallace here is that as we start to develop the dry line, those dry tires will begin to overheat, and he will actually have to go searching for some wet pavement to cool them down. With the intermediates, that's not nearly as critical for Alan McNish.
Spin for the 95, Riley and Scott. Has he lost the fire? Tom Volt, the car owner, looking around. Presumably looking for a hole in traffic, which would indicate maybe he's ready to start rolling again.
You would think so, but boy, there's no indication. You know, often when they click it into gear, you see the car just lurch a little bit. There he goes.
This is their first Rolex 24 with this Riley and Scott with Chevy Power. They raced a kudzu chassis last year from Jim Downing's Atlanta shops. Well, that car is showing the scars of battle. Back on their way, no yellow flag. And while the battle continues up front, just one lap apart are race leaders from Dyson Racing and the pursuers from Olive Garden Ferrari. Back live at Daytona International Speedway, Andy Wallace and his Riley and Scott Ford coming off the banking. With traffic ahead. The story is out ahead of him as that man, Alan McNish, crosses the start-finish line and continues to widen the gap over Wallace. Wallace is the race leader. This car that you're watching from is a lap down. Oh, there's the 95 losing grip again. Close moment for McNish. So we'll see McNish in the pits. Marty Reed.
Perfect.
Well, it's really interesting, guys. They had the intermediates out on the wall again, and just while you were listening to that conversation, they made the switch. So slicks are going to go on the 7. This could get real interesting, especially if we don't get any more of this heavy rain. And we've still got a light mist, but as you have pointed out, the track is drying and McNish is flying. So we're waiting for him down here.
No indication on the horizon that that mist is going to end anytime soon.
Well, this is a real opportunity for Alan McNish, because if he puts these slicks on and he gets the brake on the weather, and he can really make a difference. But look, there are still some slightly wet areas on this racetrack. And so those slicks are going to take a few laps to come up in temperature. And ultimately, yes, they will be faster, but there may be a transition period there. But you have to take that chance. You have to use your judgment. You have to make the call.
Funny how the evolution of these race cars. This 7 is one of the older Ferrari chassis.
What do you think, Dad? What do you think? Intermediate, so Okay, we go on slick.
Alan McNish either didn't understand the question or refused to answer. John McLaughlin asked him.
Yeah, we stay on slick. We go on slick.
You're the only man who knows. Intermediates or slicks? McNish didn't answer, so McLaughlin made the decision. Marty Reed.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if I agree with you there, Bobby. My impression was he says, what do we have to lose? And he says, okay, we're going to go with the slicks. I mean, look at his eyes. I mean, he's ready for this. This is going to be, I've got this feeling like we may have another 1996 on our hands, and another guy who, by the name of Max Pappas, who dazzled us back then with some fast laps, may just do it again. I mean, these guys are, the only thing they're waiting for is the fuel. Tires are done. They're ready to go.
Well, Max Pappas didn't do it in the wet, so this could be one of those epic struggles. Now you've got cold, slick tires on wet pavement, and it's very wet down to the far end of the pit lane. There's a couple of big puddles there, and some of them extend all the way out into the entry to turn one. Bill Weber.
Well, I'll tell you, I think it's starting to rain harder down here. I mean, it is still a drizzle, but it's really gusting, and that drizzle is getting harder as each minute goes by. Now, Butch Leitzinger and Max Crawford both ran to the end of their pit box to watch the 7 car leave the pit so they could be absolutely sure what they put on. So they put on slicks. Now they know that. The problem with that is they're not able to ask Andy Wallace what he wants to put on. So now they have a pit board out. Apparently they can hear him because you can see on this pit board it says now the point that they wanted to make earlier is that they want to keep Wallace in this car, and they were going to put Leitzinger in after this next stop. However, Butch does have his helmet on and is prepared to get in the car, so we'll wait and see what happens here. But it has gone from a very relaxed, business-like atmosphere down here to a very, very tense atmosphere in the Dyson Racing pits.
Well, guys, this is where the lack of a radio really hurts you in changeable conditions like this, in changing conditions. And I have to tell you that when you have a guy standing in pit lane with that board may look big, but out on the racetrack, that you can't read that. You're going by at 180 miles an hour, and you've got to look 90 degrees to your left. That is virtually impossible to see and read.
Well, they did what they could to get the message to Andy Wallace, and I'm not sure Marty Reed isn't right. It's starting to look very, very wet to the east of us. Alan McNish may have a big problem headed his way. Welcome back to Daytona, and that long camera shot tells you everything you need to know about the weather once again. The mist is rolling in, and with it, perhaps raindrops. That's not bad news for that man, Andy Wallace, who has a 1-lap lead over a flying Scotsman, Alan McNish, in the Ferrari. McNish has gone out on slick tires, a gamble by his crew, and it may be one that they regret before the day is over. Meanwhile, Wallace has his own problems. He's got a pit stop in his future. His team can't talk to him about whether he's going to want slicks or stay on treaded wet weather tires. There are the rain tires. Now, this team made a couple of dicey pit decisions. A couple of times they wound up stopping under green when they had an available yellow flag to make their pit stops. Now they've chosen to go to slick tires with just under 2 hours remaining in the race.
Couldn't quite make out that radio transmission by Alan McNish, but look at his team poised on the pit wall waiting for him.
If they have to bring him back, pit, they're telling him pit.
Oh boy, watch out here because there's a lot of wetness here bearing down on this Mazda.
We're ready. We're ready.
Ooh, that's a quick pit entry. Keep in mind it's a 60-mile-an-hour pit lane speed limit. Oh, he locks them all up and stops on a dime. How do they do that?
This is intermediate, critically intermediate.
Well, guys, he got all of our attention. It's the one time that every photographer was moving backwards because we could all see how fast he was coming in. They have gone to the intermediates, and this decision has backfired. If it had stayed dry, he would have been flying. But now, all that great hard work that he did to get that lap back, he's lost it.
That's right. He's gone back to 2 laps down, and you can hear the frustration in John McLaughlin's voice. 0 the fuel meter. Actually, he missed his marks by about a foot, but still pretty slick. RPM Tonight will be coming your way from right here at Daytona International Speedway. Weeknights at 7 p.m. Eastern. That's 4 Pacific time beginning February 1st. And that is tomorrow. RPM Tonight on the Deuce from Daytona. For more, log on to ESPN.com, part of Go Network, go.com. Distinct engine note from the V12 Ferrari. Now there is the 20 just behind him, Andy Wallace. And you can be sure that he knows exactly what that is out in front of him.
Well, and if he goes by him, the 7 car is 3 laps down. So he had whittled that down to 1 lap, and now it could be 3. Let's go back down to Bill Weber.
With Dorsey Schrader, Dorsey, these tire decisions are very difficult. You went out on rain tires overnight, and it wasn't the right decision.
No, it wasn't the right decision. No, we went on full rains, and it didn't get wet enough. I blistered all 4, had to come in. You know, you pray for things to go your way. It looks like it just happened for Butch. You know, we didn't know what we were going to do here. It was too dry a minute ago. Now it's raining. You know, the Ferrari had to come in. It loses another lap because of that. Butch will go out on rains now. You know, you can't change these things. You just got to pray for them to go your way. This guy's been having it their way all night.
Okay, and we're looking for the 20 car to come down pit road here any moment, and they did actually make the decision to go to slicks. They had scuff slicks on the wall. Now they've taken those down and put the rain tires back on the wall for the 20 car.
And Dorsey Schrader told you exactly what the plan is at the Dyson pits. Butch Leitzinger goes back into the car, hopefully to take it on the run to the checkers, but that is still a long way off.
It is. Well, it just reinforces the old rather be lucky than good motto. And, you know, that's all it is. I mean, you know, those guys put slicks on. At that moment in time, it was the right decision. But, well, I guess Andy Wallace could not hear his pit crew because he just drove by. Let's make sure we keep an eye on him, because if in fact they're doing fuel calculations, I mean, if that car was sputtering, Andy would have brought it in, but you never know. And if it were to run out of fuel right here, he might not actually have enough to get all the way around. Well, he said pit, pit, pit after he had passed, just after he had passed the entrance, so that was probably to get the shortest distance to the car in case that helped. Bill Weber.
This could be the last stop.
Well, they can hear Andy. Andy apparently cannot hear them. That's why they had the
An hour
signboard.
and 33 minutes left.
And the previous lap, every person in this pit was up on the wall, jumping up and down. When Andy went by to try and get his attention, they thought they had it. That's where they thought he was coming in that time. But he apparently cannot hear them. They can hear him.
And what a frustrating position that must be. And you saw the fuel man with the plastic bag covering the nozzles. As Andy Wallace goes around, perhaps he'll see the signal. Earlier I talked about the development of the race cars. This Riley and Scott.
You may want to have the black flag him.
That's Bob Leitzinger telling his other team members, hey, maybe we should have the USRRC hang out a black flag for him, and maybe that's a way to get him in.
Now, how would you do that? Go to the officials, say, we think there may be a problem with our car, but we can't talk to him.
Well, now that they've heard that radio transmission on the air, they probably, you know, really, in reality, and we figured it out with EFR, if the car runs out of fuel, he's just going to go to the reserve. And I'm trying to hear it because it almost sounded like it was misfiring there. So it's quite possible that it is out of fuel. And let's see, let's keep a watch on him. And I'm sure he'll bring it in. If that was a misfire, I'm sure we'll see him bring that pit lane.
This is one of the oldest iterations.
He's coming. He's coming.
That's the crew. I'll get this point made.
Do you want Butch in the car? Do you want Butch in the car?
Sounds like they're offering Wallace the option of staying in.
Somebody wipe his mirrors.
Now,
Leitzinger's knocked him over the wall.
the brilliant part about this is all they have to do is put fuel in that car. So the rain tires that are on there are in good enough shape, and more critically, they've got heat in them. So when he goes back out, he's right back up to speed.
90 minutes from the finish. There he goes. Andy Wallace stays in the car. Heads back out.
You can hear me. Very, very slippery, tail bush. Don't touch any paint. As soon as you touch paint, you lose traction. Very slippery in the bus stop, and it's very slippery up onto the painting.
Be careful. Don't touch the paint. That's bound to be even slipperier than the wet asphalt. It's white knuckle time here at Daytona with 90 minutes to go.
Adrenaline. It's the rush.
Back live at Daytona International Speedway, Andy Wallace sliding that Ford Riley and Scott through the chicane. Being careful, as he was told by Max Crawford, his crew chief, to do. 90 minutes to go in the race. One more pit stop ahead for the race leaders. And it is almost exactly 45 minutes on each tank of fuel they'll have to go. So it could be close unless we get a yellow, which would make things easier on them.
Well, again, with these wet conditions, 45 minutes shouldn't be a big problem. And they will probably put Butch Leitzinger in. But still, hour and a half is a long way to go. Only 2 laps between these top 2 cars. Alan McNish behind the wheel now, very motivated. Certainly, in hindsight, a critical error putting those slicks on.
665 laps in the book around this 3.56 mile racetrack. We've seen so many great races over the year involving so many of the great stars of road racing. Let's check the GT2 battle. The bigger, stronger, or I should say faster GT2 cars lag behind the GT3s right now. 83 Porsche continues to lead with Andre Arl of Germany. And Ron Fellows in that debutante Chevy Corvette C5R that led so many hours of this race. They are now running 10 laps behind the class leading 83 Porsche right there. Meanwhile, the Corvette is back in, and once again the hood has come off. As they go to work on the engine. Lots of stock Corvette parts used in this car. And that was part of the goal of the Chevy race shop in building the machine.
And unfortunately, these guys only have a 2-lap lead on the 3rd place car in the class, which is the 99 Porsche from Schumacher Racing. So, and it doesn't look like there's a lot of activity, not enough activity if I was the guy sitting in the seat to keep me happy.
On board with the race leaders in the GT3 category, the number 23 Porsche for Team Seattle and Alex Jobe Racing. Kelly Collins, Kurt Wagner in the gang. Anthony Lazzaro from Atlanta. Big addition to that driver lineup this year. Take a look at the GT3 leaderboard. As the race leader is up on the banking. Not up too high, however, being mindful of faster cars coming up from behind. He's keeping it down low. That's Kurt Wagner, who put that car on pole, leading fellow Porsche stalwart David Murray, Patrick Heisman in the Jennifer's car. In 3rd place, a potential 1-4 sweep for Porsche. And that's one of the privateer BMW M3s. It was built in the Prototype Technology Group shops in Virginia. Now in the hands of private ownership, and that car carrying the colors for BMW after the 2 PTG factory cars, if you will, dropped out with mechanical problems after 2 straight victories in class here at the Rolex 24.
You can see there's probably some off-road excursions there. The front splitter, or down below the bumper there, call that the splitter. Definitely some damage on that car. Not enough to you know, stop and replace the pieces, but probably that car's a little bit understeer, probably carrying a bit too much air under the nose of the car.
Everybody looks like they're tippy-toeing around there in the infield. Let's update our GTT battle. A new class this year. There is the leader, as they have been for virtually the entire length of the race. Car number 19, currently shown in 28th position. A tremendous effort for them to go into the books as the first ever winners in this class. Right now, Kyle McIntyre from Wilmington, North Carolina, behind the wheel of the only Ford Mustang in the class, over a bevy of Chevy Camaros. As we mentioned earlier, that car raced here last year in the hands of Mike Borkowski, Tony Kanaan, and Robbie Buell. Former Tom Gloy Trans Am racer. It looks like it'll go to the winners roster, a class that has lost basically half of its numbers to attrition. So the watch continues here at Daytona, and the clock continues to tick away for Andy Wallace and Dyson Racing, as well as the Doyle Reese Ferrari team in Olive Garden colors. Alan McNish will be back.
If we never release a new Porsche 911.
This is the super sports car racing, the Rolex 24, and right now it's being led by former winners Dyson Racing in the hands of Andy Wallace right there in the red, white, blue number 20. Currently with a 2-lap lead over the number 7 Ferrari for Alan McNish, who gambled on going to slick tires just before the track was dampened once again by mist and rain. They had to go back to their treaded tires. That extra time in the pits has cost them. In the infield section of the course, McNish, his team with their eye on the clock. There is excuse me, that was Wallace. This is McNish. Going down into turn 1. The track appears to be fairly dry. At least the racing line is dry.
Yeah, you almost think, could they have toughed it out on those slicks? And again, very easy to second guess it, very easy to analyze it in hindsight. But it makes you think. Peculiar line there.
Very wide.
That would be a much normal. That would be a more normal line if it was really wet. If you know, it was kind of a a consistent layer of water across the racetrack.
Machine.
Still running faster, quite a bit faster than Andy Wallace, but yeah, it does make you wonder if they could have toughed it out on those tires. But they've got to make do with what they've got, and he's going to have to continue to pedal that car about as hard as he can.
If the track were to dry completely and do it very soon, things could get really exciting. Here's the support net car, 5th place in the overall. 62 laps behind the race leader for Henry Canfordin, Duncan Dayton, Eliseo Salazar, and Scott Schubert. Looking inside the car. They are 2 laps ahead of the car behind them on the scoreboard, and that would be this car, the GT3 class leading Porsche 911. Now shown 6th overall and just 1 lap behind the parked number 8, so they can move up into the top 5 if they hustle it around to the start-finish line soon. The number 8 is still stationary, still being worked on.
And it's funny, you know, these GT3 cars, they often have great reliability because they're not 500 horsepower, they're not 600 horsepower, so they're not they don't have the same you know, degree of stress on all those mechanical components on the car, and they can be quite a bit more reliable, and that's often why you see them up in the top 5. And this will be, as he comes over the line here, a change in position.
Across the line comes Court Wagner, who started as an SCCA course marshal.
213, Court, 213.
So our GT3 leader will move up into the top 5. Court Wagner watched the racers go by from his position as a flagman. He says finally his wife told him, well, if you like it so much, why don't you just go ahead and do it? So he went out and took a driving school, got himself licensed, went out, took pole, and won the very first SCCA amateur race he ever competed in. And then worked his way up the ranks through sports cars. Here he is at the biggest sports car show in North America, one of the best in the world, the Rolex 24. And he's in position to go right to the top of the podium in GT3, beating the GT2 class leader, and perhaps before this race is over, working his way even further up. Keep in mind, a GT3 car has finished as high as 3rd in this race. The race leader, Andy Wallace.
200 at the bus stop, 140 at the first corner.
Discussions continue from pit to car on the
Birdie in the
radio.
first corner.
There is car runner
200.
Rob Dyson looking over the stationary number 16 Sixter car. And there is James Weaver behind the wheel. The pole sitter for the race now and also ran. We'll be back. We are at Daytona International Speedway with a little over 15 minutes to go before the final hour of this race. Next Sunday here on ESPN2, the NHRA AutoZone Nationals are coming your way from St. Petersburg, Florida. Last year, Team Prudhomme for racing legend Don Prudhomme swept both Top Fuel and Funny Car. See if they can do it again next Sunday, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. The AutoZone Winter Nationals on ESPN. Excuse me, that's coming to you from Pomona, California. For more, log on to ESPN.com, part of Go Network, go.com. And if you'd log on, you'd have known it was coming to you from Pomona, California. Opening round of the NHRA season for 1999. There's Andy Wallace. Unable to hear from his pits, although he can talk to them.
And he's been radioing back helpful information for Butch Leitzinger, who we assume is going to get in this car, about racetrack conditions, about where it's slick, where the grip is, you know, as we had surmised, the paint, any of these painted areas are where, when it gets wet, where the grip is the lowest. And of course, on the transitions out onto the banking, there's some standing water in a couple of those areas. And of course, back in the bus stop here.
You can still see a puddle here and there on the racetrack. It's the one you don't see that gets you.
Always a lot of debris back in the bus stop chicane. Now this is McNish now just coming back onto the banking. So he's probably about, I'll get a watch on him, he's probably about 25 seconds away from putting himself back where he was before that original tire change, which was the wrong one, about 45 minutes ago. So.
Seen anyone come into slicks yet? No. No one has come into slicks that I know of.
Consultations continue. The boss has the broom. Here's Bill Weber.
And Rob Dyson is a man of many, many talents. Obviously, this is a huge responsibility for you at this point.
Well, it's one of the few skills that I've mastered.
Are you trying to take your mind off things, Rob?
Frankly, yes.
How do you feel?
I've got a little bit of a flu bug, but other than that, I feel cautiously optimistic. But there's, I don't know, about an hour and 40 minutes left, something like that.
About an hour and a half.
Yeah, and so, like I said earlier, there's a lot of racing left, but cautiously optimistic.
Hour and 13 minutes left for you.
An hour and 13?
Yeah. You can do a lot of sweeping with that.
I'll be doing a lot of sweeping.
Yeah, he's going to wear those bristles right down to the nuts, says Rob Dyson. Enormously enthusiastic for sports car racing. He sits on the board of directors here at Daytona International Speedway. Right now, his team is out front once again, but he'd be the first to tell you we've been there before and didn't go to victory lane.
And that's the thing, is that you never, and Rob knows, you never, you know, cautiously optimistic is the perfect way to describe it, because you never count your chickens before they're hatched, to use an overused cliche. And he knows that. But he's got great drivers, he's got a great team, he's got a great car. That was closer. I'm glad Rob's out sweeping and didn't see that.
Watching pictures. That was one of the privateer Vipers that continues to romp around in the GT2 class. Actually, I'm not sure if Rob sits on the board of the Speedway or the International Speedway Corporation, in case you're buying stock. Plenty of clean track now for Andy Wallace. This is where one of the big standing puddles was, but that too appears to have dried up, and the clouds continue to lift over the Speedway. So it looks like we'll be dry from here on out. Meanwhile, in the pit lane, losing ground with each tick of the clock, the factory Chevy Corvettes, who came in here With so much fanfare, put on such a great show for so long, including taking provisional pole in the GT2 class on Thursday. But now the wheels have come off, so to speak, it would appear.
And they've fallen back to third in class. And we did talk about it yesterday that, you know, what these guys were trying to do was very, very difficult to do. To debut a car at the Daytona 24-hour race. We also knew they would be, we knew they'd be racing hard. We knew they would be wanting to beat the Viper. We knew the Viper would be wanting to beat the Corvette. And now it looks like, this car has not officially retired, but we've lost one Corvette. We've lost the Viper. And who's there to pick up the pieces, as we discussed, are the Porsches. And we have Porsches lying first and second in GT2 right now.
And in GT3, we have mentioned the 23 car got up into the top 5. That has reversed. The 8 car is back on track, and although the 2 cars are on the lead lap, number 8 is in 5th place, 23 back in 6th. Ride up on board the 23 right now. Court Wagner still behind the wheel. Coming up, is that our GTT class leader just ahead? I believe it is. And in fact, the only GTT class car still motoring around the racetrack.
Well, a lot of these teams that had brought these, there goes one of the Dyson cars. A lot of these teams that brought these GT3 cars here, these GTT cars here, as the 83 GT2 leader comes in, are not necessarily super experienced in the realm of, look at that, bring the car forward, come on, come on.
The fuel hose won't go any farther. There you go.
Luckily, these guys have a 13-lap lead.
And notice where the fuel inlet is, right there on the hood. This is a rear-engine Porsche. The back window is out. Marty Reed is standing there.
Yeah, and an update on that back window. They do not know how that got cracked. We finally got some communication to work between their German and my English. But they have no idea how it happened. But it has, shall we say, given them flow-through ventilation. The only other problem they have right now, if you'll notice on the front, they have to literally pick up the front end of the car. The front air jacks aren't working. It's nice that this is a rear-engine car. Those 2 guys are not Arnold Schwarzenegger and his twin brother. That's how light a front end of a Porsche really is, and they'll just hold it there while the guys do the tire change, and then they'll set it back down, and we'll get back to racing here. It's kind of nice when you have the lead. Got 2 strong guys up front.
Danke Shane. Could be Hans and Franz.
Well, you wouldn't be doing that with a Corvette or a Viper.
Oh, boy. Ron Fellows will climb out of the Corvette, and that would appear to be the last rites for that effort. And they may lose a spot on the podium, and that, frankly, is a terrible shame because they have put up a valiant fight here in their debut endurance race. They will be heard from.
Yeah, it looks like they've got about 15 laps up on the 4th place car in class, which is the 49 car. So, although I saw John Paul Jr. in a helmet there, is he getting in that car?
Well, perhaps all is not over.
So here we are banging nails in the coffin, and, they're firing up the coffin and driving out of the pit lane.
That'll teach us. Maybe they'll go all the way to the top of the podium just to spite us now. Well, we're going to see a lot of cars turn up for the final few laps of this race that haven't run in some time. That may be the plan here. But either way, it's no disservice to them because they have put on a great show. And they shall be heard from again, perhaps as early as the 24 Hours of Le Mans coming up in June. Ron leans in to help John Paul with his belt. Paul can't do it if you've ever worn one of these full-face helmets. It's not easy to look down and read your own sponsor's name on your chest.
Well, that's another benefit. Ron Fellows with his open face helmet, that's another very significant benefit of running an open face helmet, is that you can do that. Look at John. John also has got that broken thumb, and you can see that it looks like his thumb is actually out of the glove. I can't quite tell there, but he broke his thumb either on a motorcycle or on a bicycle. I couldn't get a straight answer on that. But he did the IRL race at Disney World last weekend. And that is probably an easier environment to drive with a broken thumb because you're not doing as much gear changing. You're not turning in both directions.
That's right. It was a motorcycle accident. He was riding a 1000cc Yamaha and tried to stop behind a vehicle that had stopped in front of him and hit a slick patch and laid it down and He said, I learned my lesson. From now on, that motorcycle is a garage queen. Hasn't slowed him down any. He will be back on track, perhaps to take the Corvette to the checkered flag in its debut race here at Daytona. We'll be back. We'll enter the 24th and final hour of the 1999 37th running of the Rolex 24 at Daytona. Marty Reed and Bill Weber in the pit lane. Jeremy Dale joins me, Bob Varsha, here in the booth. Glad to have you with us. Hope you're enjoying your Super Sunday. We're going to go right up to the finish at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Meet all the winners. We'll see you on your way this Sunday with a new set of winners on the Roll of Champions here at the Rolex. Andy Wallace leading the way in that red, white, and blue number 20, and that was the number 7 Ferrari he went by, wasn't it?
Yeah, Angelelli just came out of the pits. McNish pitted, handed over to Angelelli, and we hear that they've got slicks on that car. Andy Wallace still on wet weather tires. Undoubtedly, he is going to pit. Well, no, that's not for about another 20 minutes. He's due to pit. So he's going to have to make do with these wet weather tires for a little while.
While Alan McNish was out of the car and Marty Reed was found him.
Well, you roll the dice, sometimes come up 7, sometimes come up snake eyes. Obviously going to the slicks was the wrong move.
Yeah, the circuit was just at that point where it was marginal, and I felt it was, well, it was a gamble, but it was a gamble we thought we had to take, and I felt it was worth it. Unfortunately, I just got out. It started to rain again, but you can never tell when it's going to rain and when it's not.
Spirits on the team, we can hear it on the radio. It's almost like, you know, that was like the nail in the coffin.
It's not over until checkered flag drops.
There's a guy who doesn't quite see. Now that's what I like about this guy. I saw it in his eyes when he went into the car. Alan, we hope that things come around for you. We'd like to see a great dramatic finish too.
Nope, no quit in the Scotsman.
Marty, he was not very happy with you.
You may not be allowed back there for doubting their resolve here. Stiff upper lips all around. Must be a little warm in that Corvette. John Paul Jr. has rolled up his sleeves, ready to go. It's his left hand that's wearing the heavy bandage from that motorcycle accident. But they will wait as we tick off the seconds to 12 noon Eastern Time, the end of the 23rd hour of this race. Plenty of stories still to unfold. Rob Dyson talking with Pat Smith as crew chief and James Weaver, a driver. We'll be back to Daytona. For Dyson Racing. The car is up on the banking. One more pit stop in its future. The number 16 sister car is in the pits being cleaned up for this final hour. Plenty of awards to be handed out at the end of this, at the end of this hour in English, and Marty Reed has one of his own to hand out right now.
Well, every year we try and find a team that really shows what this race is all about, the perseverance end of it. Here's the 89 team. It's the only Porsche 944 in the field. Scott Beauvais is behind the wheel. They started this race next to last in the 78 car field. They are currently running 37th, 14th in GT3. They aren't going to win. They knew it when they came, but they are soldiering on, and they will finish this race.
We talked about every racer who came here with a dream, and this team, their dream was perhaps just to finish the race. I suspect they're doing it on DOT tires as well. Roughly half the field is in the garages. 78 cars started, 39 continue to circulate. Some will be back out in this final hour for the opportunity to have their pictures taken going under the checkered flag here at the Rolex 24. Fantasy Junction is the sponsor of the team. Why not? Their fantasy was to come here and finish, and it appears that they will achieve that. Crew can start packing up with that last pit stop complete. Maybe leave a couple of tools out in case something needs to be framed back into place. There's another car, perhaps at the other end of the financial spectrum when it comes to budget. This is the number 4 Chevy Corvette that we have not seen on the racetrack in some time. Back out there now.
Car looks nice and clean and tidy too.
As well it might.
Yeah, as well it should. I think right now that car is sitting back in 48th overall. 340 laps back from the overall leader.
Windshield took a ding. Meanwhile, the sister car is sitting right there. John Paul Jr. waiting. The hood continues to be off. The crew working. Car is up on the jack stands. Presumably they'll have it back on the racetrack for the final lap of the race. Back to our leader, Andy Wallace, who we are guessing will pit for the final time, turn the car over to Butch Leitzinger. It was a number 20 Dyson Racing Riley and Scott Ford that went to victory lane in 1997. The man who drove it under the checkered flag was Butch Leitzinger, last year's sports car. These cars known as World Sports Cars in that series, and he won the driving championship.
Now look at this. There's the 7 car. That's Angelelli in the 7 car. His last lap, average speed 115 miles an hour to the 110 of Andy Wallace. That's the lap before, but that gives you an indication of where these two are at. It is drying out. Angelelli on the slicks and really coming up to speed now.
What has happened to your language? A couple of days ago you said I'm down with that about something that you really enjoyed. Now you're talking about where the car is at as though you were from my hometown of Atlanta, Georgia. You're from Toronto. Where do you learn these things?
I'm international.
Yes, multilingual. Ferrari goes high on the banking. You can see the dry line on the racetrack. It's going to be very, very tough in this final hour, but they will press on. A few moments ago, Alan McNish looked at Marty Reed like he had two heads when Marty suggested their race and their run for the victory might be over. Coming up on one of the Downing cars, Mazda-powered Can-Ams. Whoops, it was a little close. Teal color of that Can-Am car just being passed by the second place car in the overall may look familiar. It's the old Screaming Eagles chassis, once campaigned by television actor and enthusiastic racing driver Craig T. Nelson. Lighter color on the asphalt means that's where the dry is. And on slicks, Max Angelelli is going to want to make the most of it.
And I think he's going quicker and quicker every single lap.
Leader is headed for the pit. He is in the pit lane. Here comes Andy Wallace. That could be a fairly lengthy stop. They're going to do a driver change. He's a little bit early. They get about 45 minutes on a tank of fuel. This could be interesting. Bill Weber.
Well, just over 52 minutes left to go in this race, and they figure with the conditions, they probably will have enough fuel to go the distance. Butch Leitzinger climbs in. It was his decision on what kind of tires to use. It really wasn't much of a decision at this point. They're going with scuffed Goodyear Eagles. These tires they're putting on have about 5 laps on them, so they're race ready. Leitzinger gets in, buckled in, has the steering wheel on. They clean the car, waiting on the rear tires. Fuel is in, and this should be the last scheduled pit stop for Butch Leitzinger. Getting some last-second direction from Max Crawford. The car is down, and Butch Leitzinger now begins the march toward the checkered flag at Daytona.
Boy. I'm sorry, Bob. 54 minutes is a long time for this car on fuel. I'll be surprised if they do it without a splash, but they're pretty close.
Father Bob Leitzinger himself, a sports car racing champion, has been clicking the watches for the Dyson team this weekend. He'll be looking on proudly as his son heads for victory lane another time to pick up another Rolex Daytona chronograph that goes to each winner at the Rolex 24. It's Leitzinger over Angelelli, Ford over Ferrari. We'll be back. During the course of our coverage of the Rolex 24 at Daytona, we are back, and the Dyson Racing Riley and Scott is in the lead. They have been either in the lead or battling for it. I don't think they've been out of the top 2 positions since the first hour of this race. Right now, Butch Leitzinger is in the car, hoping to baby it to the finish. He's going to need to short shift and stay off the throttle a little bit, make sure he has the gas mileage he needs to go a little over 50 minutes on one tank of fuel to the checkers.
Well, we certainly know the Ferrari, which at this point sits 2 laps back, will have to stop one more time. They don't have a hope of making it all the way. But I would be a little bit surprised to see this car go 54 minutes. But you never know. I mean, yeah, he could just stroke around.
Can-Am cars fill the top 5 positions. Then the leader in the GT3 category leads the winner in the more powerful GT2 class, running 6th and 7th overall. Second place car in GT3 is in 8th place. Then the 6th place car in Can-Am runs 9th. The 3rd place car in GT3 is 10th, and then the 2nd place car in the GT2 class in 11th place. The 3rd place car in the GT2 category is one of the Chevy Corvettes, running 16th in the overall. And our leaders in the GTT category in 28th place, 154 laps behind the leader, but with a gap of about 90 laps over the next nearest car in class. In fact, they are the only GTT cars still on the racetrack. There's Max Angelelli in the Ferrari working the infield. Take a look at the lap comparison. Still quicker, but at 4 miles an hour difference, the overall leader really doesn't have an awful lot to worry about, with about 49 minutes roughly remaining. They got 48:30 remaining in the race.
No, these guys need to hope that the Dyson car has a problem. Butch is certainly not likely to make a mistake. He's been here before. He's done this. He knows how to get it done. And we understand that there's a little bit of rain, a little bit of mist kind of coming down right now.
Mother Nature likes close finishes, I guess. You see the moisture on the camera out there. More of a mist than a rain, really. Just enough to get your attention when the back end wants to overtake the front end of the car. Well, actually, that looks like a little bit more than a mist there on the windshield of the number 23 Porsche from Team Seattle, our leaders in GT3. It does look a little bit more than misty.
It is a little bit more than misty.
It's enough to turn off the lawn sprinkler, although we don't see an awful lot of rain on the window of our announce position on the grandstand high above the trioval.
Now, what you want to do is you know, unless it really starts to rain, you want to try and tough this out on slicks and not come in and make the change. The problem is if you slow down too much, you lose the heat in the tire. If you lose the heat in the tire, you lose the grip. So really, you have to keep pushing pretty hard to keep the heat in the tire. And I'll tell you what, Angelelli is going to have Butch Leisinger in sight very shortly here.
And you know what? It is beginning to rain harder because we can see it in the air outside the announce position now. This could get really interesting.
So a critical time now for both of these teams to make decisions on what they need to do.
Those who have to stand along the pit wall and make these decisions, particularly when the communications are cut, as we've seen on a couple of occasions among the front-running cars. You can't consult with the driver. He has to really make those decisions for himself and somehow communicate them to you in the pits if he needs a change. Here's the number 7 Ferrari, Max Angelelli. I know you spoke with Wayne Taylor. Has he spent any time at all in the car?
He did one stint, and I went down after we got off the air yesterday, and I spoke to him. I said, "How do you feel?" He said, he had driven in the warm-up yesterday morning, and actually was dizzy in the car, but was hoping that and thought that he had some kind of inner ear infection, or just he was really not feeling well. He was having problems with equilibrium, feeling dizzy, but thought that he would get in the car. He said, if I do drive a stint and I don't feel right, then I'm just going to leave it to these guys, and I guess that's what he's done, and that's what he decided. There's no point in risking the team. The victory here is much more important to them than anything else. So even though he, from a driving standpoint, he is the team leader, he's pretty much had to stand down and stay out of that car.
fist in the air on these long camera shots. The race leader works the infield, closing up behind one of the GT2 class Vipers. The 83 car running first in GT2 is on the pit lane for his final stop. It's interesting that GT3 is leading GT2 4 times in the history of this race. The GT3 car was the top finishing production-based GT machine. The last time it happened, 1992. If you were with us for our pregame show yesterday, we talked with 67-year-old Dick Greer. Last time it happened in 92, it was Dick Greer's Mazda RX-7, finishing 7th overall, the top GT car.
Down here in the pits, GT2 leader is unexpectedly in, and they are under the bonnet in the back, as they would say over in Britain. And the Porsche is running, idling a little bit on the rough side. In fact, the last time he came through, it was very rough, and they're not sure what is wrong, and they're reaching way up in there. You can see the way the cooling system is and the amount of heat that is generated. It gives you very little room to maneuver. You need somebody with very small hands. Now, don't panic here because they've got a 12-lap lead in their division, but they'd still like to finish this race out on the track, not sitting here in the pit lane. So they're going to diagnose this. When we get a definite answer, we'll get back to you.
Okay, thanks, Marty. Tell that that's a Porsche from that distinctive flat 6 sound. Let's go back to Bill Weber.
With Ron Fellows, who managed a small smile. I know you're pleased with what you accomplished, but disappointed with where you stand now.
Yeah, well, you know, I mean, the debut has been superb. You know, we were able to achieve enough speed in provisional qualifying to really learn what the competition has, and I mean, that was a goal in itself. And then to be teased here for 20-some hours and lead this thing all through the night and most of the morning, it's frustrating, but you know, we've certainly surpassed all expectations as far as I can see.
Do you know what put you out, Ron?
Well, the engine started consuming oil, and eventually the officials decided we were leaving a little bit too much on the track, so they said fix it or park it.
Do you know what your future plans are for racing this Corvette?
We'll see you in Sebring March 20th.
Okay. That's Ron Fellows. They had the 4 car back out on the track. The 2 car sits on pit road. They had real high hopes. They were very enthusiastic coming in here, and as you can imagine, there's a great deal of disappointment down here in their pits.
All right, thanks, Bill. Thanks for the program note, too, Ron. We will be at Sebring for the 12-hour Endurance Classic, March 20th. You'll see it right here on ESPN2. Make a note. We'll be back.
ESPN Classic is coming out.
The Rolex 24 at Daytona, America's toughest sports car race. At the Daytona International Speedway, drivers like 5-time champion Hurley Haywood race 24 hours through the heat of day and dark of night. Hurley and his Rolex are up to the rugged demands of this legendary race. Rolex, the choice of champions.
Good news back at Daytona for Butch Leitzinger is that his radio is now working once again. He can talk to the crew, including his father Bob, who's working with Dyson Racing, trying to coax this Riley and Scott Ford home to victory lane. A number of records are in jeopardy here, including the overall distance record set back in 1992 with a Nissan GTP. Team of Masahiro Hasemi, Kazuyoshi Hoshino, Toshio Suzuki, and Anders Olafsson went 762 laps. Right now, we are working lap number 690. They will shatter the Can-Am distance record. That number, 711 laps, about 2,500 miles. We may also get the GT3 mark. Of course, the GTT class is new, and they will certainly set a record. The GT2 record might be out of reach for this year.
And what makes that so impressive is that in 1992, that car, which was actually a Group C car running under GTP rules.
Le Mans car, yes.
A Le Mans car, V8 twin turbo, a car I had driven the year before. Those were cars that were significantly faster than these Can-Am cars. They were well over 200 miles an hour in the tri-oval, more like 215 in the tri-oval. So the fact that that this car could shatter that record is very, very impressive.
Question remains for this car whether or not they're going to need a stop at a reduced pace to maybe able to make that car last through to the finish. They go a little over 45 minutes at full tilt boogie.
McNish was a 49.5. No problem.
That was Bob Leitzinger talking to Butch. The family closing ranks here. No problem, Butch. Keep up the pace you're on. And it wasn't McNish, actually. It's Max Angelelli in that car.
Yep, he does catch you. Let's go by and just follow him. There's nothing he can do then.
A little more strategy there. You've got a lap to give. Actually, you have 2 laps to give. So just get behind him. But certainly don't challenge him and risk an incident that might blow everything up.
Well, Angelelli definitely is catching Leitzinger. Not very quickly, but he is catching him. But Bob Leitzinger's strategy is the right one. Let him go. Don't fight with him. We're down inside 40 minutes. He's going to have to, even if he gets by you, technically he's 1 lap down, but in reality it's 2 laps.
Appears to have stopped the blowing mist that threatened to dampen this racetrack again. A little over a half hour remaining. Now the palms really start to get sweaty for the leaders. And for this team, despite all they've done in a terrific fight, they will need a miracle, or at least a breakdown. Bob, that man, the race leader.
It brings back, you know, thoughts of that pit stop yesterday afternoon when they made a mistake on a full course caution and stopped at the wrong time, cost themselves about a lap on that. And of course, the tire decision this morning, that was a much tougher call, but it certainly brings to mind. And there are some comparisons there. Angelelli, 117 miles an hour on that last lap. 114 for Butch, and I'm looking at my monitor, and that he just went over the line. That information is 1 lap old, but basically the most up-to-date information is exactly the same. So he is continuing to catch Butch Leitzinger.
If you look back over a 24-hour fight like this one, you think, where could we have made up the time? Where did we make the mistakes? There have been a couple of obvious ones. There's Bill France. This is his racetrack. Talking with Rob Dyson with his back to us. Things begin to pick up around these parts when Speed Weeks rolls in. Congratulations to Bill France and his family and his organization and all that they have accomplished here in Daytona Beach, Florida. Going back to the days when his father built this racetrack, and everyone thought, why in the world would you build a racetrack a couple of miles around? Of course, you might wonder why we would race around that track for 24 hours, but we do.
That's a better question.
And we've been doing it for 37 years. You're watching as Dyson Racing hopes to bring it home for the second time in their history. Don't go away. Time can be your friend. Time can be your enemy. For the leaders, as we approach the end of the Rolex 24, time is definitely their friend. For those who pursue class leaders around the track, time is the enemy. There's our leader in the GT3 class, 6th in the overall. Their final stop.
Darrell Havens is climbing in. Fort Wagner, the man who put this car on the pole, climbs out. Darrell, the team, or actually vehicle owner, as Alex Jobe Racing prepares the car. And for Alex Jobe Racing, this is another dream coming true. Stalls it, though, but I don't think that's going to be too critical. He free-fires and underway. Maybe a little bit of nerves. He's got intermediate tires on, guys. He knows he's about 30 minutes away
real wet,
from victory.
Real slippery.
And you hear the same refrain from every crew chief when he sends a guy on his way. Watch the pit out. Now we've been eavesdropping on pit communications, and we are told the Dyson team is telling Butch Leitzinger he will definitely have to make a splash and go stop. He will need fuel to get to the end of this race. And the number 7 car right there will also need to stop, but we knew that. That was pretty much a safe bet coming into the last hour.
Yeah, that was a given, and they'll need a good dose of fuel. Butch will not need a whole lot of fuel. He's actually, I think he's coming in right now, because you can hear the crew chief talking about the speed limit. So here he comes. Got to be careful. There can still be some water here. Gets to slow down.
Marty Reed awaits Max Angelelli in the runner-up car.
Max overshoots the mark just a touch, but they're going to put 4 fresh stickers on here. So even though the mist continues to fall, Max says, well, I guess gave Alan McNish 2 laps, and Alan says, yeah, he nodded. He knows that he's still got a lot of work. He's basically down to a point where they need a problem to happen on that number 20 leading Dyson Ford. You can see him throwing water down to keep the car from overheating. That's another precautionary. Also helps clean out the radiator grill up front. Good stop. He's out of here.
Okay, Max. 0 the meter, please. If it continues to get hot, just go a little bit slower.
So I guess maybe they're having some minor overheating problems. If it continues to get hot, just back off the speed a little bit.
HSM 53, the same as before. The same as before.
Well, these guys is
quite wet, and the tires have caused big longer, huh?
Well, you have a couple of gentle laps, Max.
Well, as Marty said, they're pretty much going to need some help from the Dyson crew if they're going to win this race. But at the same time, Max needs to push.
Race too much, then stay out as long as you can, okay? They'll warm up on the banking, Max. The banking's dry.
Is he referring to the brakes there? If the brakes go to mush?
No, it was, well, they were talking a little bit about that, but he's primarily talking about getting heat in the tires. And what he's saying is when you get up on the banking, that's when you'll get a bulk of the heat in the tires.
It's like that 944 we talked about earlier, continuing on its way to fulfill its Daytona destiny. And the Corvettes coming back out. This is the number 2 car, who has now dropped to 18th in the overall running order. And he is fighting for the final spot on the podium in class, because the number 49 is on the same lap. And that would be a terrible dose of salt in the wound for this Corvette team not to make the podium. 49 is a Porsche 911. A German entry for Freisinger Motorsport.
And I don't think it was a coincidence that this car sat in the pit lane up until that point. I think they wanted to run it as little as possible. They've tried to fix the oil leak on it, but they wanted to run it as little as possible, so they waited for this car, and now they'll try and get out there and run and maintain that 3rd position in class.
No doubt concerned that car with Manfred Duras on the same lap, 34 laps behind the class leader, might knock them off the podium. So they may have a fight on their hand with one hand tied behind their back, so to speak. Less than 30 to go. In the running order in GT2. Whoa. Some wicked steering input there.
A lot of hands from Ron Fellows there.
He's gone from the full face helmet, from the open face helmet to the full face helmet, perhaps expecting a fight here in the closing laps, and he has gotten one. The car has actually been passed by the number 49 Porsche for the 3rd and final podium spot in GT2. Did I just hear something over the radio about a podium spot?
Well, it sounded that way, and he's 10 seconds behind the 49 car, so we're going to have to keep our eyes on this battle because I think it would be important for these guys.
I wonder if they learned that from us. Are they watching television down there in the Chevrolet pits?
Doesn't everyone watch us?
Depends on who you talk to. These guys certainly deserve a tip of the helmet. Now, through the fog, there is the number 49 car. Currently shown third in the class. About 10 seconds ahead of Ron Fellows in that number 2 Chevy Corvette. This car is 18th overall. Once again, it's misting up, but at this point, not enough to affect things with barely 23 minutes and change to go in the race. But we are hearing reports from the SCCA corner workers from the Central Florida region that it's starting to get damp in some of the corners again. Whoa, there's a little twitch right there for this crew from Europe coming over to put their names in the Daytona record book. And now the number 2 Corvette has headed for the pit lane.
And so is Butch Leitzinger, it looks like.
Could be the splash and go.
Here comes Butch.
Will there be a tire change? Yeah, there's rain tires on the wall, I do believe. In addition to that all-important fuel, I guess, well, at this point, you can put rains on there, and even if it dries up, you can burn them up. Bill Weber, what's going on?
Well, they warned Butch that it is wet and they are going to go to rain tires. They did need a splash. They were hoping that if the weather got bad enough that they'd be able to make it on fuel, but then they would have had to stop for tires anyway. So this should certainly be their final stop. They will give him the rain tires. This is a precautionary move. He should still be able to have the speed, and the track should have enough moisture on it, hopefully to keep these rain tires cool. But Leitzinger sits in there, visor up, looking around, waiting for the cue to go as they put on the tires here. The fuel is in.
Okay, take your time, do it right.
Good instructions there. And now Butch Leitzinger heads out with just over 22 minutes to go.
Butch Leitzinger came to this race years ago driving what were then called GTU class Nissan 240 SXs with his father Bob, who was the class champion there. Now he's going for his second victory here in the Rolex 24. He's already been a champion and will be in the future as he brings the car back out for what will essentially be a parade to the finish. And the checkered flag here at Daytona. Will it be wet or dry in victory lane? That's one of the questions yet to be resolved. The Dyson team is ready to celebrate. Will be race leader. Boy, sometimes when your number's up, it is up. They put the rain tires on, and now the raindrops are falling. Now coming up next, on ESPN2, the NFL's greatest game, Super Bowl number 3. For more, log on to ESPN.com, part of Go Network, go.com. Welcome to the Super Bowl of sports car racing, or as we refer to that game down in Miami later today, the Rolex 24 of the NFL. Butch Leitzinger just got the splash and go with new treaded tires in time for the raindrops to fall. A couple of other leaders. Our GTT class leader came in.
207, so not going to go anywhere here.
It's Bob Leitzinger coaching his son Butch home, letting him know where the competition is. Max Angelelli got on the radio a moment ago.
Last time was 207.
Angelelli was very animated.
Still 2 laps ahead.
I think he came across.
Yes, we are still 2 laps ahead.
Yeah, Butch is asking his father, are we still 2 laps ahead? Bob confirming that for him.
So if he comes up on me, what do? I let him go.
And that last lap, even though Butch is on wet weather tires, Max is on dry weather tires, virtually the same lap time. So they're kind of at that point. There's Rob Dyson with Dorsey Schrader.
He put the broom away. God, he must be feeling confident.
Well, that's because Bill France showed up. You can't be sweeping out there when Bill France shows up.
There's a member of my board of directors acting like a janitor out here. Come on.
He does it all.
That's Dorsey. I want to be standing next to the boss from this thing.
Well, we all know Dorsey hates attention.
Yeah. Rob Dyson is a very successful businessman. He's been doing this for a long time in both Porsches and the Riley and Scott Fords. Boy, and he never fails to get emotional. went in the grip of racing fever. Sky's darkening. Boy, I'm glad I'm not doing those victory lane interviews, boys.
That was a 206, Butch. That was a 206. You don't need to go any faster than you just to win. Just go slow enough to win.
Words taken from...
Just keep me apprised of what time is left and stuff like that.
I'll keep you informed here. 17 and a half minutes left right now.
Alain Prost once said the idea is to win the race at the slowest possible speed. I think he got that from Juan Manuel Fangio. And that's the idea.
Yeah, they figured that out a long time ago. And Bob's just reminding him, but really, you know, Butch is in complete control here. All he wants to know is where's the other car. I'll drive at a pace that's comfortable. I'm not going to slow down. I'm not going to slow down to the point where I kind of, you know, bounce myself right out of my rhythm. So I'm just going to drive at what's a comfortable pace, work my way through traffic, and just settle into it. Just let me know where the other car is. That's all I care about.
On the straight.
Thank you, Dad.
Thanks,
He said to talk to you.
Listening to the Leitzinger family, talking it over.
We're down to 16 and a half minutes.
We're out of record territory due to all this wet weather, but we could still get the Can-Am mark. Bill Weber. Well, Bill Weber, what is Rob Dyson doing?
Well, he got tired of pushing the broom, and now he's going to try and push this car around the racetrack for the last 15 or 20 minutes here or so. Actually, I think what he's going to do is he wants to go out and do something to take his mind off things, and obviously he wouldn't mind a side-by-side finish with a 16 and a 20 here when the checkered flag falls. So feeling very confident, or perhaps looking for a distraction. And I'll tell you what, right now it has really begun to pour down here. The wind's still gusting with vicious strength, and the rain getting heavier and heavier, and perhaps an apropos finish for this day into night into day race.
I know what Rob Dyson's doing. He's saying, put me in the car. That's the only place I can go where these TV guys aren't going to stick a microphone in my face and ask me how I feel. That's right, but we're going to listen on the radios.
You cannot escape the TV people.
That's right. They're everywhere. Well, the rooster tails starting to be tossed in the air once again. Bill Weber, back to you.
Well, let's see. He is sitting in the car, and now he fires it up. I was going to lean in and show him that he can't hide from us in there. What's he doing?
He's enjoying one of the best things you could ever do in a 24-hour race. He's going to go out there, run side by side with his car that won, and you don't get many chances to do that.
Okay, well, he saw me coming and he fired it up, so he's not exactly shy either, but perhaps he wants these final minutes for himself.
Grab a helmet, pretend you're going to put it on and jump in with him. He'll probably peel out. That was the 16 car that drove well in the hands of James Weaver, sat on pole, but then suffered oiling problems that dropped the car back. They put it behind the wall for a while, then brought it out, cleaned it up, and the boss will drive it home behind Butch Leitzinger, who is on his way to victory as the seconds continue to tick away. 15 minutes and counting to the end of the Rolex 24. 7th Rolex 24. The roster of champions about to expand by several. And the names such as Dan Gurney, Pedro Rodriguez, Phil Hill, Ken Miles, Lloyd Ruby, Mark Donahue, and Chuck Parsons, Mario Andretti and Jackie Ickx, and Peter Gregg and Hurley Haywood, and Al Holbert. John Paul Sr. and Jr. Bobby Rahal won this race. Brian Redmond, Ross Stomelin, Al Unser Jr. The list goes on, and more names will be added. The second place Ferrari is in. Marty Rita's there.
Well, Max Angelelli kept it out there as long as he dared, and it was getting very slick. So the slicks come off, the rains go back on, and you could see the frustration in the team. They know that their chances of being able to win this race now depend in the next few minutes on the 20 car braking.
No apparent sign of that.
Oh, what's that waving yellow there? We've got a waving yellow there in turn 1.
Rob Dyson going by in the red, white, blue car. There's a car off on the outside. There's a white Porsche off on the exit of turn number 1. You'll be able to see it as this camera swings back left. And that car is car number 49. There it is. Car number 49 that passed the Corvette, to knock him off the podium is now stopped.
I'll bet the Corvette boys are gonna. There's Ron Fellows.
I wonder if that news has been communicated to Ron Fellows. He's got to get around and take that podium spot back. Wow, what a development here in the final 15 minutes of the race for this factory Corvette team. The first ever official Chevy Corvette racing team, who had the courage to bring this car out and debut it in a 24-hour race, recognized as perhaps the toughest race in the world for a sports car. And they may yet get a podium finish out of it. The leader in class runs 7th overall. Second place in class is 10th. About 8 laps behind the class leader. And a long way behind them is the Corvette, but third is third any way you get it. The 49 receiving attention now. And it looks like they're going to tow it.
And I believe the Corvette, there's the Corvette. And the Corvette has taken the position. So the Corvette moves into 18th overall, third in GT2.
107 laps behind the race leader. But they will pick up that third place.
And if you think that's not significant, that really is truly significant, because to finish on the podium, to finish in the top 3 in a debut event at a 24-hour race with a brand new race car, you know, it would have been a fairy tale finish for that team to win this race, but to finish in the top 3 is a phenomenal accomplishment.
The last official factory-supported team Corvette in action was at the 12 Hours of Sebring in 1957. A Corvette SS did not finish the 12 hours. The Dyson crew beginning to feel more than cautiously optimistic as we get into the final 10 minutes of this 24-hour marathon. Stay there. To Daytona International Speedway, we're all a little goofy here in the final minutes of this 24-hour race as the 37th Rolex 24 goes in the books under a fairly steady rain. Butch Leitzinger being very gentle in the braking area for the chicane. They'll only visit that point on the track 3 or 4 more times before this race is done. And rather than challenging that slow, well, he will pass them after all.
Yeah, you want to make sure, though, you don't want to get caught out in a situation like that, so you just wait. You make sure those people see you before you stick your nose in.
Nearly 24 hours ago, the cars all sat echelon style, or Le Mans style, if you will, along the pit lane. 78 strong from 23 countries around the world, more than 325 drivers. Everyone with a dream as we watch the rain pelting down on the lens of our high camera above the grandstand.
Okay, Butch, we're approaching 6 minutes. 6 minutes to go.
Short shift now, Butch. Take no chances, says his father over the radio. 24 hours later, it's been another race well worth watching. It was bright sunshine then. Now it's raining. Here's an update on Team Seattle. Raising money with every lap they make, between $150 and $200 per lap, I think they were raising. Well, the total thus far, $254,600. That is well above their target, which I believe was $220,000, and over $500,000 raised in the last 3 seasons for the Seattle Children's Hospital and Regional Medical Center. Great job, Alex Jobe Racing and Team Seattle. Add a little luster to that performance. They will also take home first prize in the GT category, the brand new Daytona Sports Car of the Year award. presented by Daytona International Speedway. They also sat on pole for this race. All in all, they have pretty much swept the table this weekend.
And that is fantastic for Alex Job Racing because, as I've said before, you know, he really started out, you know, with a very modest operation and has built it up over the years. And they are a formidable force in GT3 racing. Have been, you know, running Porsches consistently over the years and have just done a fantastic job. And they take on teams like the factory BMW team. And that doesn't sound like a big deal, but, you know, these factory teams, they have all the resources, they have all the latest parts, they have the engineers, they have the technology. And even though Alex would have support from the factory Porsche, from the Porsche factory, nevertheless, incredible thing to be able to pull off.
Kind of an avant-garde image from our high camera. And Butch Leitzinger crosses the start-finish line with less than 4 minutes to go now. And there is Rob Dyson, the team owner, who took refuge where a racer would. In the race car. Now he's going to have to slow down and let Butch catch up if they're going to cross the line together.
Probably having too much fun.
There's a Corvette in position for that second place finish just ahead. Pretty solidly there now. He's got a 3-lap lead over car number 49 that we saw towed off. I beg your pardon, did I say second place for that team? It'll be third place for the Corvette. Rob Dyson doesn't seem to be letting up much going down the backstretch. It'll be white flag next time by, we are told from race control. Dyson team lines up on the pit wall. Congratulations to every one of them on a job well done. Most of them have been up all night long. Dorsey Schrader there on the end. He's handled some of the driving chores in the number 16 car. That could very well have been the Dyson Racing entry going to victory lane, but not as luck would have it this weekend.
And EFR down on the right side there, and he's done a fantastic job in this car, as has Andy Wallace. They've all made incredible contributions to this effort.
And the rain really coming down now. This is going to be an interesting set of pictures in victory lane. And wait till you see victory lane here at Daytona if you haven't been here in a while. They have made some changes, including a complete television studio complex.
There's 1 minute and 45 seconds left, Butch. That's all.
White flag is out and waving over Butch Leitzinger and Dyson Racing. 1 lap to go. One more trip around this 3.5-mile racetrack before going back into the record books where they went in 1987. 97. Jeremy, any minute now I'm going to let you take over. I'm an autopilot.
Well, we have been on for 6 hours, so we can cut ourselves a bit of a break.
I'm just getting all choked up in all the emotion here. Stu Hainer now joins Dorsey Schrader on the pit wall. Most of the drivers all looking for cars to hop into. There is Stu on the left, Dorsey on the right.
And of course, they were piloting the 16 car along with James Weaver. And down on the far end here, there's EFR.
So Rob's wife, Ellie, if she's not here, she's watching at home. There's Elliott Forbes Robinson.
And I haven't seen Andy Wallace up there.
He may be getting his massage. Very carefully, Butch, looking in the mirrors at all times. One more time, up onto the NASCAR banking. Beginning tomorrow, this racetrack will be turned over to the stock car crowd. We'll be here for 2 weeks, and we'll be all over it here at ESPN and ESPN2. And then the motorcycles will roar in for Bike Week at Daytona. You'll be seeing
4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, 24 hours is up.
That was from Butch's father, Bob, telling him the 24 hours is up. Time to go out in the pit lane and welcome home the conquering heroes. And all of the pit crews are heading out into the lane now to welcome everyone home.
They're all out in the grass.
Bob Leitzinger telling Butch the team is out on the grass. And now flagman Dean Reed pulls out the checkers. And for the 37th time, victory at the Rolex. For the second time, it goes to Dyson Racing, and Butch Leitzinger driving the car under the checkered flag. Unofficially finishing in second place, 2 laps down, will be the Doyle-Risi Ferrari. And the Corvettes come across the finish line side by side. Congratulations to Dyson Racing. A spectacular effort under conditions that have changed throughout the 24 hours. And this is something I have never seen before.
No, I've never seen anything like...
Lane is going out to the racetrack in the tri-oval.
No, I've never seen anything like this. I've seen them up on the edge of the grass, but everyone is walking out there.
And given the way it's raining, they couldn't have less reason. Well, this is truly something special here at Daytona. The Downing cars, Mazda powered, come across the line in echelon style. Fully half the field finished the race in the garage. But the other half are on the racetrack, and those who aren't racing are out here cheering home the winners.
And I'll tell you what, here's a big group of cars.
All together with headlights flashing, parading across the finish line from BMW and Ferrari, from Porsche, the winningest brand ever here. 6 Porsches coming across together. And the Can-Am machines, 24 hours long expired, and this one is in the books. But now the celebrations will begin in Victory Lane at Daytona, where all the greats have come and sprayed the champagne and waved to the crowd. Dyson Racing will do that, as will our winners in GT3, GT2, and GTT. We'll talk to all of them. Stay with us.
Hi.
Back live at a very wet and raining Daytona International Speedway, where by 3 laps our winners from Dyson Racing missed the overall distance record for the Can-Am class here at the Rolex 24. 708 laps complete. The record was 711. But the rain has not dampened the enthusiasm or the celebrations going on up and down the pit lane. 4 classes, 4 sets of winners, 4 sets of podium finishers. And with 78 cars in this race, 78 stories to tell. There's the Dyson team climbing aboard, giving that car.
That's not the normal ride height, by the way, on that car.
A greater physical challenge than it has faced in the last 24 hours. And into Victory Lane they will go with a little assist. They don't have quite the turning radius they need. What a great job for this team, who has come so close to winning in the past, only to see it slip from them. Then came back in 1997 to win, and I'm sure this one is every bit as sweet. There's a picture you'll see in all sorts of enthusiast magazines in the weeks to come. And for the final time, that Lozano Brothers 5.1 liter Ford V8 runs silent. Bill Weber is in Victory Lane.
And it's a very emotional Victory Lane, as you might imagine. Lots of hugs and handshakes and a big celebration. Butch Leitzinger bringing the car home for Rob Dyson. And there's a big hug. He's got the helmet on. Lots of his co-drivers down here. We'll start with Butch. Butch, first of all, congratulations. I know the first one's sweet, but I know this means a lot.
Oh, it's fantastic. I mean, this was the example of a total team effort. Andy and Elliott were fantastic, and especially at the end in the rain. I don't know how you guys did that. I actually shut my spot off to Andy because I didn't want to go out in it.
How did you do that, Andy Wallace?
Well, the track was very greasy because there's a lot of oil down, and with the water too, it was unbelievable. But the whole team did a superb job. I'm very happy to be here and very happy to be standing right here.
Well, congratulations to you. We'll try and find Elliott Forbes Robinson. Here he is.
Hey, here I am.
Hey, congratulations.
Oh, thank you very much. This is really a thrill. These guys did such a good job, and I'm really happy to be able to drive with them. And Max Crawford, who organized our whole thing for the night and got us to get good pit stops and keep up front even when we weren't the fastest car. It's been great.
This was a wild one, too. You had to overcome a lot of things. The 16 car fell out. The weather was atrocious at times. You did a great job out there in that stuff.
Oh, listen, it was great. Had a great car to work with, and this Dyson group puts the best car together. They make everybody look good, even me.
It wasn't fun either, was it?
Well, I don't know, man. I even enjoyed driving the rain. I usually don't.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, Rob Dyson's down here somewhere, too. I'm not sure if he's made it into victory lane or not, but some of the competitors coming over and congratulating the Dyson Racing team as they win for the second time the Rolex 24.
All right, thanks very much, Bill. Rob Dyson still making his way to victory lane after driving the 16 car into the pits. Let's take a look at the final results in the Can-Am class. Second victory for Elliott Forbes Robinson, second also for Butch Leitzinger, and the third for Andy Wallace. The Ferrari team finishes in second place. Angelelli, de Rodriguez, McNish, and Wayne Taylor, who got nowhere near as much time in the car as he would have liked as the team leader. And Stefan Johansson and his compatriots come home in third. Jim Downing and his Mazda-powered team in 11th place. As you look down through the rest of the field, the biggest field of Can-Am entries ever here at the Rolex 24, 21 strong. And for Lola, who returned to this race, an early exit, but they will be back. Part of the mechanical complexity of exotic machinery that makes this such a special event in the world of motorsports. Those are our Can-Am winners, but we have 3 more classes to talk to. Don't go away. We are back at Daytona, where the clouds are still overhead, dropping rain on Daytona International Speedway. But the race is in the books. Let's take a look now at the GT2 class. Victory to Porsche. Andre Earl comes back to victory lane at Daytona. And the Chevrolet Corvettes, in their debut, had to scramble for it, but luck was on their side in the closing moments. Ron Fellows, Chris Neifel, and John Paul Jr. pick up third in the GT2 category. The sister car, John Heinrichs, Andrew Pilgrim, and Scott Sharp finish in 12th in class. Let's get down to victory lane and Marty Reed.
Yeah, and we've got the winners here. All the way over on the far side is Andre Arle, Hubert Haupt, David Warnock. Andre, you were in the car there at the end. Let's talk to you first. You and I go back to Porsche Super Cup days. Congratulations. Who broke the window in the back?
I know the wind did. When the ride window went, the air just popped the back out. So, you know, but it was nice and cool, you know, kind of an air condition in there. So the problem occurred when it started raining, you know, then the water went up in the car.
I know you've had some big wins in your career, but how does this rate overall?
Can you repeat, please?
I know you've had some big wins in your career, but how does this rate overall?
This was one of the hardest. I think this one is the hardest and the biggest one so ever, because we had many problems to start with during the night, and we were pushing, and the crew was just excellent preparing the car. My team colleagues, you know, we were, you know, going for it all the way, and we had to face the Corvette team, which was absolutely magnificent opponent to play with, and you know, it didn't work out in the end, but they were very strong, and they seemed to be unbeatable in the beginning. Yeah.
Well, guys, congratulations, a great win for all of you. I think Rob Dyson has been found. Billy, you got him?
Yeah, imagine that. He turned up in victory lane. Congratulations, Rob.
Yeah, stranger things happen, huh?
You went and hit on us there on the end.
Oh, it's great. I'll tell you, it's a tribute to the guys. They did just a phenomenal job just keeping the car on the track and keeping it going. And I'm just elated at how resourceful and how persistent, vigilant our guys are. They do just such great work. And to win a 24-hour race anywhere once is terrific. To do it twice with only a year's separation amidst very, very tough competition. I mean, there were 4 or 5 cars that had a shot at winning it, and they came as close as we ever wanted them to. And when you have 2 laps with 18 hours to go, that's not much of a lead. So I hope the fans enjoyed it. It was a great race.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Bill. Appreciate it.
Rob Dyson in victory lane for the 2nd time at the Rolex 24.
That's right, and thank you, Bill. Let me correct something. It is the 3rd overall victory for Butch Leitzinger, who also accomplished the feat in a GT Nissan. The first victory for a GT car in the overall. Congratulations to him. We'll be back. Back at Victory Lane at Daytona Beach, Florida, the Rolex Daytona chronographs being presented to our winners in the overall and the winners in the Can-Am category from Dyson Racing. Butch Leitzinger, Elliott Forbes Robinson, Rob Dyson, the team owner, and Andy Wallace up there, who's getting quite a collection. This is his 3rd. Now let's check some more of our GT results in the GT3 class. The biggest class here with more than 30 entries. Victory to the pole-sitting Porsche 911 of Kelly Collins, Darrell Havens, Anthony Lazzaro, Kurt Wagner. Porsche also in 2nd place in that category. And this one was a fight all 24 hours long. Once again, Porsche comes out on top. The winningest brand in Daytona history chalks up another class victory. Now let's hear from our winners with Marty Reed.
Alex Jobe Racing and Darrell Havens and all these guys, I mean, right on through from Anthony Lazzaro, Kelly Collins, Kurt Wagner, these guys, all of them doing a great job. This car, guys, you beat everybody in GT categories. You realize that?
That's pretty amazing. Alex Jobe really put together an incredible car this year. We had to for the kids. We raised $254,600 for Cammie, who's the poster child for the Seattle Children's Hospital. All of the money, 100% of it, goes directly to them. But, you know, between Yokohama Tires and AJR and Aerofab and these guys rock.
Cammie, pretty exciting deal, isn't it?
Yeah.
Hey, guys, got to talk to Kelly and Court. First off, you put the car on the pole. You said, I want to go qualify it. You did. You guys never looked back.
Got it done. You know what? We didn't. And we were nervous the whole way through it, to be quite honest. We didn't want to look back, but we kept looking over our shoulder. And we've been the stepchild to this race for a number of times. And it's just great to be on the podium and win it, put it on the pole, and send BMW home packing. Sorry, Tom.
They went home real early. Did that sort of, you know, but was that the turning point in your mind, Kelly?
No, not at all. I mean, Marty, you know just as well as we do. We've been here before. We've been, you know, all the way up to the last minute and, you know, lost the lead and stuff like that. But what we really wanted to do was push the BMWs as hard as we possibly could. And either we were going to break or they were going to break. Darrell, you didn't know that. But anyways, yeah, I know. We wanted to push them, and that's exactly what we did. And once we did that, we actually cut it back quite a bit. More than 2 seconds a lap, and we held our lead. And yeah, ran our own race from that point on. But the first 6 hours was a full-on sprint race. It was dog eat dog.
We got to get over to Bill. But Anthony, just one quick comment. How excited are you?
Oh, it's great. I've been coming here for 7 years, and finally we won one. And the first year I was here, I finished 2nd. Like these guys, we were all due a win. So it's thanks to AJR and their car performance. I mean, we got a good machine. So.
Congratulations, guys. Let's go to Bill Weber.
Okay, with the GTT winners and Kyle McIntyre, I believe we appointed you spokesperson. Congratulations.
Well, that'll work. I'm surprised I can talk, but I'm happy to be here.
Well, introduce your co-driver.
Petery from New York. Gary Stewart, my co-owner on the car from York, PA. We're real happy campers. This is Craig Carter over here.
The Rain Man.
The Rainmeister. The Rainmeister.
Craig, you're the Rain Man?
Well, I usually get that, I had a lot of experience with it, so I get the chance to outrun the rain, and I usually get along with it pretty well.
How does it feel to win here in the first time for this class?
Fantastic. We're just excited. We got the car, 8 weeks ago, and the word thrashing, if you're a racer, we put it to work. I'll tell you that.
I got to tell you, Sparky Davis, our crew chief, deserves the credit. That boy did a whale of a job. Our crew, hats off to him.
And it wasn't easy, was it?
No, and this is an all-American format. This is the kind of car people can relate to. So people drive these cars and they're very nostalgic about the fact that they're going away from racing.
Well, we said this allows the average guy to come race at Daytona and win. Did your dreams come true today, guys?
Our dreams came true.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Congratulations, gentlemen. Our final class, the GTT category, new to the Rolex 24. Victory to Les Delano, McIntyre, Petery, Stewart, and Carter. They were the only car running at the end, but they were the ones who came, put in the effort, and they reaped the glory here at Daytona. The time is coming to wrap things up for 1999. But before we take a break, here's a look at some of the images of the 37th running of this great race. From the wild moments at the start, when the Can-Am cars were battling as though it were a 2-hour sprint, to the formidable debut effort from Chevy Corvette. Our share of mishaps along the way, and some people's race ended sooner than they would ever have dreamed. But for others, the clock kept ticking, the race wore on into the night, into the day, and everyone fought to the last moment. Great fun to watch, eh, Jeremy?
You know, Bob, I just love this race. It's different every year, but it's the same. You know, these guys come here and they fight and they fight and they keep going. And it's just a fantastic event, unlike anything else anywhere in motor racing.
This is one we'll be talking about for some time, not least of which because of the weather and the effect it had on the race. But we have more to come here in our wrap-up of the 37th running of the Rolex 24. Stay with us. More from Daytona coming up. ESPN Speed World coverage of the 37th Rolex 24 at Daytona is being brought to you by Porsche, who wish to remind you there is no substitute. Here's a look at the overall results of the 37th Rolex 24. These mix all four of our classes together. Victory for EFR, Leitzinger, and Wallace over the Ferrari of Max Angelelli, Didier DeRatigas, Wayne Taylor, and their crew. 78 cars started the race. Unofficially, about half the field finished. And there have been years when that was not the case. Attrition is always a factor here at Daytona. And it's a measure of the preparation that goes into these cars, no matter what the budget, that so many of them finished this race that started in the sunshine and raced on through the rain, sometimes torrential rain, before the finish just a few minutes ago. Congratulations to everyone who took part. They will go home across the world to the 23 countries from which they came with stories to tell about Speed Weeks at Daytona. It's everything it was advertised to be and more. And now, that typically motorsports moment as the champagne gets sprayed. Dan Gurney is credited with beginning this tradition in 1961 at Le Mans when he first sprayed the crowd with champagne. And so it has been with champions and race winners ever since. Rob Dyson, Elliott Ford Robinson, Andy Wallace, Butch Leitzinger, all up there hosing everybody down. There's Max Pappas in the Miller Lite suit. Max knows good wine. Things do get a little crazy up there. That's right. Men become boys in Victory Lane. Some very fatigued racing drivers there in Victory Lane. A look at the class winners in the Can-Am. You know all about the Dyson team. Porsche picks up class victories in GT2 and GT3. And keep in mind that GT3 car actually beat the GT2 winner. And in GTT, a former Trans Am Ford Mustang picks up the very first victory in the GTT class. The distance is covered, not a record for overall or in the Can-Am. In fact, no records in any of our classes except GTT, which is a new class in 1999. But that was because of all of the heavy rain that slowed everyone down. Now let's hear from Marty Reed.
I guess I always seem to want to focus on the human drama of this event because Bill and I are the ones trudging up and down pit lane with these guys, and our feet feel like theirs do at the end of 24 hours. But it is the crews that I always admire the most. They get no sleep whatsoever. They crack their knuckles. They work endlessly in hopes of having that moment up there to share with their drivers. It makes it all worthwhile. And for all the